Look at that, wow, what a setup we have here today. And the topic today is 711. No, I'm not kidding, this is true. It's not the Porsche 711, that doesn't exist yet. It's also not the 711 shop. It's the horsepower figure of the new updated Porsche 911 Turbo S, the pinnacle in the model portfolio. And they also picked 711 as the new horsepower figure because this is the area pre-code for Stuttgart, Germany. So for the town of Porsche, yeah, that's very interesting. You always want to, when you want to call someone in a company, you put like 0, 7, 11, then you can, type the real number. A little bit of fun is also allowed in a company which is more about serious sports cars. And the Porsche 911 Turbo S was always a vehicle that you can drive to the racetrack and use on the racetrack at the same time, in differentiation to the GT3, for example, not 100% racetrack focused, but also sustainable on the motorway and so on. But of course, with the maximum performance, now at 711 horsepower, but there's much more technology about this. For example, a new hybrid engine. We'll talk about that and everything you need to know about the coupe and the convertible of the 911 Turbo S in this update with Thomas and Autogefühl in 4K, full screen, full length. Let's go, starting with the coupe, a new lower front here with these adaptive air intakes. At the moment they are open. Usually when you would start driving, they are closed at first, and then when the cooling is in demand, when you need more cooling, then they would open like this. Vanadium is here this gray color, a pretty cool bluish color, and they have the so-called Turbonite essence here, like on the logo. Turbonite is what they call this, this more the shaded gray style you can already see here at the Porsche crest, for example. And also these updated headlamps, matrix LED standard. So with the 911 Turbo S, you get basically almost everything as standard, which is usually an option with the 911. For example, also the ceramic brakes, and they are the biggest ceramic brakes, PCCB, you can see here, that are ever used in a Porsche two-door vehicle. Really massive, and you can see 20-inch wheels in the front, central lock, 21-inch wheels in the rear, and the length is 4 meters 55 or 179 inches. Slightly longer than the normal 911. Why? It's just like an overhang in the rear, but I can soon show you why that is. The coupe, of course, with the typical very central form, wider chassis parts, that looks even more impressive, together with the fixed rear wing right here. And it also lifts, well, fixed wing in the sense of it is already there, but not fixed. It's still adaptive in the sense of this whole thing can still lift up if you need even more downforce at higher speeds. New light strip goes all the way through right here, three-dimensional Porsche lettering. It's pretty amazing also how it's somewhat mirrored here with the light strip and so on. And in the lower part also a new lower bumper and a completely new titanium exhaust. And it's not only that the exhaust itself, but also the outer tip here. That's why I'm tipping it. This is also from titanium. So yeah, on the one hand, they are still working with exhaust tips because the outer part is not the real form of the inside exhaust. The real form you can see on the inside, but it's one piece together and it's also from titanium. And alternatively, you can soon show that with the convertible, you can go for the sports design package to have a round exhaust pipe we have there on the other vehicle. But that's just a beauty aspect or how you want it from design. It doesn't influence the performance of the exhaust. It's not a different exhaust or something. And there will be a lot to talk about the engine and the performance figures. So, rear ship engine concept. The only thing we can open right there is this servicing flap in the rear. You can open it from there. There we go. For example, here for oil, you can see the fans there as well. It's always nice to see, why not? But servicing then from underneath. There we go. And they now use, you maybe saw our GTS video earlier, where they use one electrified turbocharger. This one here, the 911 Turbo S, gets, so to speak, the same base engine like the GTS T-Hybrid, but they completely remodified it. It has 2 electric turbochargers plus an electric motor integrated in the PDK. And this together brings more power. Now it's 711 horsepower and also more performance in the acceleration figures. So 0 to 100 kilometers an hour is now at 2.5 seconds. That's 0.2 seconds quicker than before. And 0 to 200 kilometers an hour is at 8.4 seconds, and that's 0.5. So half a second quicker than before. I always give the example when, for example, your partner says, oh, there's the new Halloween decoration out there at Target, and you say, okay, we need to go there super fast, and you start in your driveway and do 0 to 200. It's a typical use case, you know. Or maybe like when you're in Germany and you at like a rest station and so on, and then you go on the Autobahn again, also always 0 to 200. That's what Germans do all the time, you know. But definitely it shows how much performance this one can get now. The engine is now at 3.6 liters. That's 0.1 liter less actually, because they found this is like the optimum case. It's a 6-cylinder boxer engine or flat engine. And this integrated hybrid concept, as I said, consists of this additional electric motor and then these electric turbochargers. And the even more interesting thing is, from a technology stance, is that recuperation is done via the electric motor over all 4 wheels, but there's also recuperation over the electric turbochargers. And that is happening even when you floor it down, because at some point the car generates basically too much pressure in these turbochargers than you would actually need. And back in the days with the wastegate, you would just like let it out there, you know, just like waste. But now the electric turbochargers can also regenerate some energy, and the Nürburgring Nordschleife lap time is 14 seconds quicker here now with the updated Porsche 911 Turbo S. Also, for example, because of the electric turbochargers. And at the same time, there's no risk that the battery, which is at 1.9 kilowatt hours, so it's just a buffer battery, it doesn't get, you cannot empty it. So in their testings, and the lap time, the record tests and so on, they never had the problem that the battery would be draining because it's always being recharged, when they go downhill on Nordschleife and so on, and also because of the electric turbochargers and so on. The problem is rather that the tires go away, because the 911 Turbo S, it doesn't come with racing tires. It's not like, like the GT3 or GT3 RS. So they had the problem that the car can do more than the tires can handle. They still added new tires here to that, because for road driving, you also need to cope with the bigger performance. At the rear, you have 10 millimeters wider tires, for example. That's another thing, jumping over to the convertible. But it's really, it tells you something about the car when the limiting factor are the tires. But that's only for, professional race driver, Nürburgring Nordschleife lap and so on. Then if you do it frequently, then you would maybe switch to different tires, maybe non-street legal tires. But this one, the main purpose is to be street legal. Also with the convertible here, light strip goes all the way around. This one with the sports design package with the round exhaust, also titanium. So you have a different look, and carbon fiber exterior parts are also available if you want to individualize it a little bit more. Here, for example, contrast in black then here with this back rear wing. And we have not the vanadium gray color, but here's the ice gray color for the convertible. Carbon wheels, also same size, but they are actually even more aero efficient. And together with these active aero flaps in the front, the whole car is also more efficient. So yes, it has more power, but as I said, at the same time, it is more efficient. Very interesting, by the way, this hybrid concept also changes, for example, like the Newton meter torque peak, and also like where can it be delivered. So it's 800 Newton meters of torque, and now comes the interesting part, is delivered between 2,300 RPM and 6,000 RPM. So it's like a long plateau where this is actually possible, and the total power, the maximum power output, is also a small plateau between 6,500 and 7,000 RPM. And usually the power curve is more like this, and this one is more like here, and then it has really like this long plateau. This is very interesting. Bottom line, what does it mean from all these facts and figures and so on? you will have so much power available over a wide spectrum no matter where you are in the RPM. Means it goes fast anytime you like, anytime you want it. Convertible or coupe, that's totally up to you, of course. I'm always a convertible lover because I like to drive open top. At the same time, the coupe has the more classic shape, of course. Suspension technology is also very important. PASM, the adaptive suspension, is always standard, but then you can pick between a normal suspension setup and a sport suspension setup. It's minus 10 millimeters, so a little bit lower, a little bit stiffer. Maybe the normal one would be more fitting to a Turbo S, and maybe the sportier one would be more fitting to the GTS. It also depends, of course, if you drive a convertible or a coupe. I would always say like the coupe always feels a little bit more stiffer than the convertible, if you're really comparing in small nuances. And then this one here now adds, because of the hybrid concept, they have a 400-volt board net. And then this one can add a special new technology for an anti-tilt control, and it's called EHPDCC, Electro-Hydraulic Porsche Dynamic Chassis Control. What does it mean? The car always stays like this. It doesn't lean at all. And and it helps to make the ride even sportier. So this is even than here in this Porsche 911 Turbo S. At the same time, this whole hybrid concept only adds 85 kilograms of weight. So what are they achieving here actually? How can we translate it? Because there are so many new electric vehicles out there which have great performance figures, like just going straight, acceleration and so on. And they maybe also drive extremely well. But then again, it's always the weight issue. And when it comes to driving the racetrack or really agile corners, tight corners, it's so much more fun to drive with a lighter car, which is here at 1,710 kilograms. Although you have all this technology and the hybrid model and the acceleration figures. So what they're actually doing here is having such a great acceleration at any time. So basically like the performance of a hypercar electric vehicle without having the negative effect of the extra weight. Because you've maybe seen in our reportings, I've been driving the 911 GTS hybrid on the racetrack and I had so much fun. Then I was driving the Taycan Turbo GT on the racetrack and it was crazy as for the acceleration. But after some laps I said like, it's fine, it's enough. I don't need anything more, So here, weight is everything. And that also here still counts for the Turbo S. It's of course heavier than a GT3. That's more for a light-wheel building style. But here to have the compromise that you have basically everything in one car. So to speak, you have a race car, but you also have an everyday performance car. And you have a supercar and everything together basically in one bundle. And at the end of our video here, we'll also talk about the pricing. Yeah, that's the most hurtful aspect always about the 911 Turbo S, which by the way, of course, as always, gets a classic 911 frunk. Always a beautiful opening mechanism. Here you still have to do the unlock, with these new electric frunks like in the Macan. You can just unlock it directly, or in the Taycan. Here there's the unlock, and then you have also enough space for your suitcase. And of course, remember to always properly close it again. Now towards the interior, here the door handles come towards you. Still they're haptic and closing sound is pretty cool, very solid, although it is a frameless door, of course, for this coupe. Then inside of the doors, everything wrapped tightly, really strong, like the horizontal lines. Also here, very nice, the integration with the door handle and so on. Tiny pockets, but they have a felt covering on the inside. Turbo S entry badge. And also the floor mat has the Turbo S. And it's nice, we have some integrated lines here in that floor mat. Yeah, thanks Leah for the light. It's very beautiful done, so a nice detail definitely. Then steering wheel here with the drive mode selector, metal knurling around, I love that. And also the special power boost button in the middle. Then seats, you get either normal sport seats or you can also get the bucket seats, but they are of course a little bit stiff and not so flexible, so the base seats will be more flexible definitely. So far for the Turbo S, no alternative to animal skin. Porsche needs to do more in this segment because this is a very heavy material and there are materials that are lighter, animal friendly and also better for the customer already. And more and more manufacturers offer it. Porsche also from time to time and new models, but not in the 911 yet. And here with the headroom, 189, 6 for 2, still some headroom left. And here, for example, we have the perforated race text. So it's a microfiber, and then you have like a perforated, like a golf ball structure in there. So that looks really cool and feels also pretty nice. I must say that the 911 is, to me, not the most comfortable vehicle from the seating position. Some say it's perfectly fine. I think you just have to need to take a test seat at the dealer. Very important to mention, by the way, from the technical facts and so on, didn't mention it on the exterior yet, it always comes with all-wheel drive, and power is put to the front wheels the more you push the throttle in general. Maximum of 25% when you really like go all the way and have maximum grip and so on. But it will always be a rear-wheel drive focused vehicle, and the cockpit is focused on the driver with their large digital instruments. They are all digital now. You know that the pre-facelift models still had the manual RPM counter, and some say they prefer that. It's also always a question about, they used to have like on the left side, like where you can put the key and turn it around. Some love that function. Now they rather thought, okay, let's keep the key anywhere, and then you just hit the start button and that's it. So more modern, more digitalized, so to speak. A little bit bigger infotainment system, you can also see it with the facelift, but I still found it very cool that we have real buttons. Here, for example, to activate the special exhaust note. And then here also for the climate unit, the AC. I love these clicking sounds, and there you still have a real interface to the vehicle. The shifting lever, brown shaver style, you know it, drive and reverse. And also here, for example, for zooming in and out of the map, or the volume here, beautiful clicking sounds. And separate buttons also for seat cooling, seat heating. That's pretty cool. Cup holder is right here, 4-dot adaptive. You could also put that whole thing out, will also be possible. Here the middle console could be maybe a little bit softer. And here is also rearranged in this facelift of the 911 with the cooling of the inductive charging pad. You can also use the USB-C chargers then here. And depending on coupe or convertible, coupe is standard with just 2 seats, but you can also pick 2 plus 2 seats. That would be standard for the convertible. Then you have these emergency seats in the back. For Isofix, you can also put bags on there. When you fold this one down, for example, and this one, then you don't damage the seats when you put a bag on top of it, for example. So this is possible. With sitting there as an adult, maybe for a short trip when you put the co-driver seat forward, and then maybe have a little bit space here, but yeah, that's limited. And of course, also not the main factor of the 911. Have we seen with the light here, the seating, you know, with this perforated race deck? This is a very interesting new idea, right? But feels really nice. That's pretty cool. Also here, microfiber around the sun visors. They cannot be extended. However, this vehicle is so low that usually you don't have so much problem then with blocking sun that comes in. And of course here, the analog clock in the middle part. Lovely details we really want to keep. And here the digital instruments, you can pick different layouts. That's the advantage. It is flexible and shows whatever you like, map or assistant systems, map full screen and so on. Then again, I can also understand those who still prefer an analog RPM meter, and honestly, me as well. And a short view to the main infotainment unit. Always exciting to check out the vehicle functions here and the visualization. So this has been all updated, and it also changes according to the driving mode. So when I control the driving modes at the drive mode selector at the steering wheel, you can see a spoiler is extended to sport mode, normal mode, wet mode is also possible. In this case also the flaps from underneath the vehicle close, that there's not much rain or water coming to the ceramic brakes. It's also a very interesting aspect. One quick look here at the convertible. First of all, interior, you have the different color scheme here. Of course, you don't have to go for this color scheme. It's just an option, basically. And always interesting to see the convertible top. There we go. It goes really quickly and always looks very spectacular. There we go. And you can see, yes, you cannot completely keep the coupe form, but I think for a convertible, it looks still very coupe-like. And let's go back one more time because I want to show you the automatic wind deflector, and then you can enjoy this process here. once again, there we go. That's pretty quick. So don't want to put down the windows again. And here, when you look at the wind deflector, because you don't need the rear seating, this is a pretty clever concept, right? You don't have much hassle in installing or deinstalling it, just a press of the button in the middle console, and that's it. So that's the pretty much coolest feature about the convertible here. I already have the German prices, you know, especially in the US, there might be something happening with the recent tariffs and so on. It's also affecting the Porsche revenue and also the prices there. So we have to see about that. But so far, what I can say is 271,000 euros for the 911 Turbo S. Lia Osman is like, 271,000 euros for the Porsche 911 Turbo S Coupe and 285,000 euros for the convertible. I mean, you get everything in it already, but there are still some extras, as you can see here, like the design package with the carbon fiber and stuff and special wheels. So you can even top that up. I mean, probably as it stands here right now, maybe like 300 or something. Yeah, and if you then, I just checked some leasing rates of existing 911, that was like, what was it, 6,000 euros? I'm not sure how good the leasing offers are. Meanwhile, if you are a happy 911 Turbo S owner, you can maybe state your leasing rate you got in the comments, then we can also have like something there as an additional info delivered from customers themselves. Yeah, definitely one of the most expensive one that Porsche has to offer. It is this Pinnacle. Still, it's a very popular model in the lineup when people say, like, I don't care about what I need to spend. I just want the Porsche 911 Turbo S. It just stands for itself because it has the latest technology in almost every aspect, as we told you earlier. Interesting with the hybrid concept. Some say maybe, I don't want the hybrid in 911, but we have driven it in the GTS already, and the performance is great. Maybe the sound wasn't my favorite in the GTS, but you've maybe already heard now in our view that sound is a little bit different here already with the 911 Turbo S. And if you haven't checked out the GTS episode, I would say you do it right now.